What did Mark Wahlberg actually think about The Happening? M. Night, what happened? And why I told June in our wedding vows I would never put her on Scare Tactics. All this and more on today's How Did This Get Made? Last Looks. Hit the theme.
I took a look, ooh, my name is Paul, and I did not like what I saw, but you know we gotta look again. Last looks, last looks.
Hello, all you tiramisu-loving adulterers. I'm your killer tree, Paul Scheer, and welcome to How Did This Get Made? Last Looks. I'm not going to lie to you people. I got the flirt. That's right. I am homebound with COVID, but nothing will stop me from delivering to you another episode of Last Looks. Because it's an important episode where we are going to break down The Happening, a movie that Discord user Elaine Smith thinks should have had the tagline, I tree dead people. I like that. Good job, Elaine. And also, instead of chatting with Jason this week, I'll be chatting with June. That's right. We are going to be playing a little excerpt from last week's deep dive. We're also going to share an exclusive deleted scene from The Happening episode. And as always, I will reveal next week's movie. But first things first, a big shout out to Judy Ford for that hauntingly beautiful opening theme. Thank you, Judy. I loved it. We love these songs so much. And if you have a Last Looks theme song that you want to, send us, you can do it at howdidthisgetmade@earwolf.com, but keep them short. 15 to 20 seconds is best. Joyful Recollections of Trauma is still available wherever you get your books, your audiobooks, your ebooks. I've been blown away by the reaction to the book. I really cannot tell you what it means to me. It's been overwhelming, but keep on posting up your reviews on Goodreads and Amazon because it helps get the book out to different people's hands. And I'm actually on Storygraph, which is really fun. It's like a letterbox for books. But let's get into it. Last week, we talked at length about The Happening. Well, we had questions, and we might have even missed a few things. Here is your chance to set us straight. Fact check us, if you will. It is now time for corrections and omissions.
Touch the rhythm, feel the bass, right your wrongs, save some face, give to me, give to them, your corrections and omissions.
Thank you, Brian B., for that theme song. We are going right to the Discord. Dr. Guts 1003 writes, in the scene at the diner in Filbert, somebody stands up and says, whatever this is, it looks like it's not occurring about 90 miles from here. Everyone then immediately gets up and heads to their cars in the wacky races scene that Jason mentioned. Now, two problems with this. First, the person never gives a direction. Is it 90 minutes south, west? Who knows? Secondly, aren't the majority of the people at the diner the same people who are stranded by the train? Whose cars are they getting into? Well, first of all, Dr. Guts, the cars is a great point. The first point, though, I think I brought that up too. What direction? 90 miles could go anywhere. But yes, the cars, unless everyone was just jumping in with other people, like the movie did make it, I think a lot of people were doing hitchhiking that day. Tina 1790 says, I have a theory about mood rings. In the scene with the couple in the greenhouse, the man gives his theory on how plants react to human emotions. I think the mood ring was supposed to play into that theory because Mark Wahlberg looks at this before he leaves to meet with Zooey Deschanel at the end, as if he knows the color implies that he's calm enough not to upset the plants. So that's why he goes to her. Tina, 1790, I love the amount of work that you're doing, and if that is the case, this entire movie revolves around a mood ring, it now truly is one of the best movies ever made. And Aquarius writes, in an interview with Collider, while Mark Wahlberg was doing press for The Fighter, he said that Amy Adams was in consideration for the Zoe part, but passed on it. And here's his quote. We had actually had the luxury of having lunch before to talk about another movie, and it was a bad movie I did. She dodged a bullet. I don't want to tell you what movie. All right, The Happening. Fuck it. It is what it is. Fucking trees, man. the plants, fuck it. You can't blame me for not wanting to try to play a science teacher. I mean, at least I wasn't playing a cop or a crook. Well, there he is, Mark Wahlberg. I didn't know he came out against this movie. Way to go, Mark. Let's go to the phones. Darren, what do we got?
Hey, Paul. I've been a happening defender with my group of friends. I still have an appreciation for it, and I know it's not for good reasons. But I do remember this being hyped up quite a bit as the first R-rated M. Night Shyamalan movie. He was able to kind of go full force and unhinged and do his like full vision. But that always was kind of strange to me because I don't really know what his previous movies may have been missing that prevented him from being like the full versions of what they could have been by a PG-13 limited rating. So my question, I guess, is what are your thoughts on like Sixth Sense or Signs or Unbreakable? Are there R-rated scenes that would have made those films better or improved versions of what they were, and were they actually held back? Or was this kind of just wasted effort and that was the only thing they could really scrape together to try and hype and promote this movie, since clearly the writing left a lot on the table for what we wanted as fans? Either way, love the show. Thanks. Bye.
No, I actually don't think that it would be better if M. Night made R-rated films. I don't think that's the problem with his films. I mean, the best comparison you can make to M. Night is that he is our modern day Hitchcock. And Hitchcock didn't make R-rated films. I grew up loving Hitchcock. I'm sure many people have grown up loving M. Night movies. I just think they need better twists and turns. I don't think that anything is holding that back that is making a movie PG or PG-13. I think it really is just straight up plotting. So, you know, I would say better third act more than a different rating. Let's go to Lee from Ontario.
Hey, Paul. Regarding The Happening, okay, man, I'm so curious on your opinion, specifically about the writing of the dialogue for the characters in this movie, because, I mean, we've seen, M. Night write great movies, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, great characters, great movies, but in this movie, for the characters, they do that one thing where bad characters in bad movies do, where they just, they're reduced to one thing. Wahlberg is a science teacher, so he, legitimately says science 10 times in the first 7 minutes. Guys, you gotta open up your science books. If you just listen to science more, Jacob, it'll explain why your face is gonna get worse when it gets older. I'm just kidding, it's all about science. And Johnny Legs is I'm a math teacher, so I'm just going to keep talking about math. And you're a traumatized little girl, let's do a fucking math riddle. That's the only thing that character is even known for, So I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts why and how he can go from writing characters in great movies to how did this happen? Anyway, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also, I love the book. Thanks so much. It was a fantastic book. Have a great day.
First of all, thank you so much for loving my book. Secondly, Lee, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, right? There are so many cases of this happening with people that we love, my gut would be that maybe he's walled himself off from human interaction, because that's really the thing that I go to in these movies. This and Old, it's not the way that people speak to each other. It's not even like something you would overhear. It's like he's not out in the world. And I don't know if it's an old-timey way of doing things, or maybe it's like an experiment in being almost very bald in your dialogue writing. But it is so bizarre that you stop and go, this is an alien. This is not and I don't know what that is. But the only thing I could assume is that he's been insulated from maybe even reading other people's stuff or interacting in the world. Although that sounds insane, because I'm sure he's a lovely guy who's out hanging out in Philadelphia. But I don't know. I mean, it's so bizarre that you're right. I don't think it's just characters. I think it's dialogue too. He's lost his ear for it, but yet he's got these great premises. Maybe it's a world in which he needs to pair up with somebody else. I don't know. What a good question. Anyway, back to the Discord. Mitch Kappa writes, I couldn't believe that our introduction to our hero science teacher is him telling his class that there are just some things we'll never know because there are, quote unquote, unknown forces. My guy, The entire point of science is turning those unknown forces into known forces. Boom, Mitch Kappa slamming it down. Yeah, this is probably one of the worst representations of a science teacher you could possibly ever see. And not like Mark Wahlberg is bad at acting as a science teacher, just the dialogue for Mark Wahlberg. Again, going back to Lee's issue, so bizarre. Graham S. writes, I feel like the direction that M. Night gave Mark Wahlberg was pretend Dirk Diggler eventually made his way out of porn, went to grad school, and ended up teaching science in Pennsylvania. There's a naivete or perhaps a bewilderment to both performances, in my opinion. Graham S., you are incredibly right. I think that sometimes that's something that's carried over in a lot of Wahlberg's performances, but I would love the idea that Mark Wahlberg was a substitute teacher. He was, Dirk Diggler became a substitute teacher, and then no one really asked him, and he just became the head of the science department. Chrissy McConnell writes, I'm sorry, but why was there no Trio Storm in this episode? Well, you know what? We can only do it. We can't go to the well that much. We got a Biostorm. We got a Geostorm. If we do a Trio Storm, it feels to me like we're going to that well too much, Chrissy. We can't, we gotta give it to you when you least expect it. If you're in the audience, maybe we would have adopted it, but I don't think so. We can't just, this is like the same thing about, is it a Jacob's Ladder scenario? Bend it, don't break it, Chrissy. All right, so many great corrections and omissions this week, but there can only be one winner. And I got to say, there's something about this. Every question is really good and eye-opening, but the thing that really brought me to this movie in a different way, for me, is Anna Aquarius finding this interview with Collider with the great Mark Wahlberg where he shits on the movie. For such a long time, we didn't want to do this movie because we felt like, we know people involved and maybe they really love it. But now we know that they don't. And Anna Aquarius, for showing us that that's the case, you get this amazing song from Scarecrow. Hit it.
Congratulations, you are the winner. Do you win a t-shirt or a free dinner? Some movie tickets, a soundtrack CD? Nope. You just win this stupid song from me.
Thank you, Scarecrow, for that song. Remember, if you want to submit an alt movie tagline or chime in with your own thoughts about the latest episode, hit up the Discord at discord.gg/HDTGM or call us at 619-PAUL-ASK. All right, coming up after the break, June and I will do a deep dive on some of the stories in my book, and as always, I will announce next week's movie. But first, I want to share with you all a bonus deleted scene from the Q&A portion of the Happening live show where June reveals what she mistakenly thought Zooey Deschanel's character was named. Take a listen.
Sorry, yes, your name and your question.
Seth, just wanted to call attention to the last Airbender patch on the backpack at the end of the movie that he was foreshadowing.
Yeah, Jess's backpack is a Last Airbender backpack. I noticed that as well.
Wow, he's really letting it go. By the way, speaking about foreshadowing, I've never seen foreshadowing. It should, I guess foreshadowing, what's the opposite of that? Full sunning? When she goes, oh yeah, well this is a separate house and there are 2 rooms and you can hear through a tunnel system that we have. Like that, Betty Buckley sets up the end so clearly. Like, well, of course they're gonna go there. Like it's so crazy.
You're gonna steal my stuff.
Yeah. Hi,
in the very beginning of the movie at the train station, I also have to admit I was very confused because I thought Jess called Zooey Deschanel grandma. It took me, and it took me a while. I heard grandma, and I couldn't catch. I don't know if anyone else struggled this. I couldn't catch her name. Now
Alma.
I understand it's
Do
Alma.
you want to try that again?
That much of an accent.
Nobody was saying it in a way I could hear it. I heard grandma, Alma.
Grandma.
It was one of Jess's 6 lines. I'm scared.
Okay, yes. What's your name and your question?
Nick, this is not my theory, but in the M. Night Shyamalan movie After Earth, Will Smith says that everything on Earth has evolved to kill humans. So is this perhaps a prequel?
Well, this is interesting that you bring this up because there is a Reddit theory, and a good Reddit
God
theory.
help us all.
That the twist of this movie is aliens. That we
Where
think
is it?
What? It's so much of a twist. It's not even revealed to us.
It's so much of a twist.
This is Reddit.
But I will say, that would be better.
Well,
I would
like,
like it if there was a villain at the end that was like somehow like
you cut to a spaceship with
manifested,
two aliens and they're going, "Ooh, good job!" Like
those are the aliens.
Good job.
Did
and
you
everyone goes,
did you audition for that part?
Yeah, and I didn't get it. So mad.
What's up, idiots? It's Jason here, busting into the episode for a last-minute plug. Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 out now on Netflix. Bow, 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 bow. That's right. Prodigy is back. We're on Netflix now. The show is absolutely fantastic. Please, if you can, watch this show. It needs your eyeballs. It needs your views. Watch every episode on Netflix. Autoplay it. Tell your friends. Spread the word. Star Trek Prodigy is the best Star Trek in the biz. All right. Eat shit, everybody.
All right, welcome back. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that every Monday we re-release old How Did This Get Made episodes back into our feed. This week's Matinee Monday is M. Night Shyamalan's Old, and next week will be the original Sharknado with guest Scott Aukerman. Why Sharknado, you ask? Well, if you keep on listening, you'll find out a little later in this episode. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different than just our regular Just Chat segment. We're actually going to do another crossover, a podcast crossover with the Deep Dive. So June, take it away.
Now let me ask you something. Genuinely, why do you like to spook and scare so much? What is that? What is that?
It's a really interesting thing that you say that because I
didn't introduce you.
Oh, hi. Do you think I'm Dan O'Brien?
I know, but I do want to give you a formal introduction because now every introduction you have from here until your obituary will include New York Times bestselling author Paul Scheer is here on the Deep Dive to talk about his book, his memoir, as Kris Jenner would say, Joyful Recollections of Trauma. So that's how you're going to be introduced. Those words will come before your name always.
I mean, it seems really like a weight that I enjoy carrying, but it feels like it is a big weight. It feels big. It feels massive.
New York Times, baby.
New York Times.
New York Times. But to go back to my first hard-hitting question, why? What? I don't think you get into it in the book, but what is it? Actually, I wonder if this is going to be a natural segue into ADHD, the ADHD chapter, because what is it? What is it you're seeking when you seek to scare? What is that?
Honestly, I don't know because there's nothing in me that wants to scare you. Like I don't want you to be scared, but it seems like in good humor, I don't mind you being scared. Like I don't want to really scare you. As a matter of fact, last night we're here on a vacation and I went out the front door and I realized, the car was parked on the side, not in the front. So as I was walking by the kitchen, I saw you in the kitchen and I stood by that window. And then
it's almost scary to learn about the times I've been potentially scared.
Oh, and then I realized I shouldn't do this and I walked away.
Good. That's progress.
But then what's so fun about scaring you, and this is what people don't understand. You and I remember this so vividly, we were cleaning out this garage space that we had at our first apartment together. And we were going through things and talking, having a conversation just like this. I turned my head, not my body, I turned my head. I threw a mask on and then I turned to you and you freaked out as if I jumped out of a closet. And that to me made me laugh. So like that's like, where did I go? Like you were talking to a zombie this entire time. I don't know, but that turn, we didn't move proximity. I just turned my head.
I think what the audience doesn't know is that you, and maybe I think I truly fell in love with you when we moved in together and I saw you had a giant box. Mm-hmm. Boxes are a big part of your memoir, and all the boxes in your collections, but you had a box that was titled that had a label on it. This is a big box that said wigs and mustaches.
Yeah, because I, as a purveyor of sketch comedy, I had to make sure that
I saw your box of wigs and mustaches, I thought, I do love this man. I do love this man.
I mean, I love a good disguise and a spook. I will tell you, though, that there's a moment in my childhood, not in the book, where my stepfather did this thing. And my mom was complicit in this as well. Mm-hmm. I had friends over and we were going to be camping in the backyard. This was like a big thing in my youth. We would set up a tent in the backyard. Okay, yeah. I didn't know. And so my friends are going to come over and we're going to camp out in the backyard. And so we had set up our tent and we were doing whatever we were doing in the backyard. And my mom and my stepdad called me into the house. And they said, we don't want you to sleep outside tonight. And we're like, well, why? We were so upset. Like, we this is our sleepover. Like, well, we just heard on the radio that this man escaped from the mental institution. A pig-nosed man had escaped and he's on the loose. And the police say they don't want anyone outside. And we're like, it's fine, Mom, it's fine. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. So now I know everyone knows where the story is going, but I'll continue it anyway. We go out to the tent and we go to sleep. And as we're in the tent, me and my 3 friends, we hear this rustling in the backyard. And it's not a dog. It's not anything we don't know when we hear it. And now the tent had a mesh window on the side of it. And my stepfather all of a sudden ran up to that window. We heard those footsteps going really, really quick, ripped open the mesh window and then pushed his nose up to me like a pig nose face and he started going, and we freaked out. We ran and we ran out and that was a
seminal scare.
A seminal scare. And it's a scare that I feel like there was an energy of, we like to scare. We are scaring, a lot of boos, a lot of jumping out at people. I don't know why. I don't love it particularly either, but I also sometimes really enjoy your reaction to it.
Well,
but it's not to hurt or harm you.
I know that. For the listeners who don't know this, I don't think I've ever shared this, but on our wedding day, one of Paul's vows was to never put me on scare tactics.
A vow which
you have kept.
I have kept. Now, in my defense, at that point, I think scare tactics was potentially over. So I'm also want you to know that as we record this, reboots also are included in this. This is across the board. I just want you to know. And I would
say anything that's scare tactic adjacent that has ultimately the same premise doesn't have to be scare tactics TM. It just has to be.
I would never put you on a prank. I would never put you on a prank show. As a matter of fact,
I really appreciate that.
I said to you, now, I think you're one of the most wonderful, resilient, resourceful people I know. But that's why I also said to you, I don't want you to go on Survivor. I want to protect you from all that stuff. I don't think that you need to subject yourself to that. You could do it if necessary. If survival was at stake, yes. We don't need to put you through that just for...
Well, we were just with one of my high school friends who told a story I had forgotten about when the two of us were in Florida together when we were in 7th or 8th grade. And we were sent out on a jet ski in the intercoastal. That we were actually in the ocean when this happened, but we flew off our jet ski.
Oh my God.
And we had to swim back to it. You have to get on the back of them. Mm-hmm. And my dear friend Jen she swam over first. And so she was about to climb up on the back of it when she felt someone, me, push her down and use her back as a step.
Wow. Wow. Now I would want to be on, like, whatever tribe you were in Survivor, I'd want to be on that tribe.
So I said to her, and she was so stunned. And to this day, I had forgotten it. And to this day, she says she thinks about it. And it definitely impacted. It happened early in the trip. And then we had like a week together. And I knew what I had done. And I did say to her, you have to understand my survival instinct. I don't know what happened with my ancestors. I don't know where this comes from, is so strong. And I will step on you. I will. She said I pushed her down, used her back as a stepping stone to get myself up.
I showed you that movie, right? The Danish movie with the avalanche, right? Where a family is on a ski vacation, then there's an avalanche. And the husband, upon the sight of the avalanche, like pushes his children and wife to the side to save himself. And then the avalanche,
have to deal with it.
Yeah, the avalanche doesn't really come, so they're fine. And how it affects. Here's what I'll say. What I really love about you is your survival instinct is very strong, but also your instinct to help is equally as strong. So you have this kind of push-pull, like you run towards danger but then you often will run. But I've never really seen you run away from like that. Like you're like, that is unlike you to use someone as a ladder. But at the same time, it feels very much.
I did.
It also feels like right because you got to do your thing.
I could look back and say Jen was much shorter than me, and so I think I thought this is going to be the best way for me to get up, and then of course I'll help her up. But
gotcha. May I ask you?
I'd love to think that it's hard to know. It's hard to know what exactly was going through my mind.
Can I give you the Billy Zane quiz?
Sure.
Okay. Picture yourself as Billy Zane, the character that he plays in the Titanic. Yeah. So you're not Billy Zane, you're his character. You're this rich, wealthy man. Titanic is going.
With eyeliner on?
I mean, does he have eyeliner?
No,
Does he have dark eyes?
Like
yeah. Now, like Nestor Carbonell. So you are in this moment. Titanic is going down. Don't worry about Kate Winslet. Don't worry about anything else. Are you going to be fighting to get on those boats? You're not a mother. You're not no children. Are you going to, like Billy Zane fights to get on those boats?
I'm going to be really honest because I think most people aren't honest about this. What I would do is I'm looking to see how many boats.
Okay. So, but not enough.
Well, I know there's definitely not enough boats. But I'm looking to see how many boats will at least get the children on. Okay. I'm not worried about the women. I'm sorry.
Okay. Again, you're Billy Zane here. Yeah.
Yes. I'm worried about children and elderly. Anyone who's an adult, able-bodied person. I hope and I believe in my heart of hearts that I would wait to get the children and elderly and anyone in physical need on first. And then everybody who's able-bodied, woman, man, I don't care what gender, I would fight to get on. After that, I hope.
Okay, but now I'm going to add one more addendum to it. If you're an elderly person, are you going to be dancing on the deck of the Titanic like those elderly people or laying in bed? Or are you going to be fighting to get to that boat? Because I did notice that you said elderly and children. So as an elderly, are you going to be trying to get on there? You're going to be like, you know what? I've lived my life. Let me lay in bed with
I'm not going down like that.
Okay, there we go.
I'm fighting to the end.
I love it.
So back to just scares and spooks for a second. I would actually say, babe, that not to psychoanalyze you, but I do think that what your book does get into is actually a very scary childhood and a childhood. You tell a story of your stepfather that's kind of whimsical and fun, but there was real fear and there was real spooks and real violence and scary stuff happening. And I wonder if your interest in scaring is to kind of take more control over the scares.
Well, can I analyze your analyzation and say
Sure.
those scares are so not the scares the jump scares that I enjoy are so not scary because of the actual scares that I did have. So, and this is a problem that I have, and I think it was much more apparent in the beginning of our relationship. I don't know what's normal, in the sense that
So glad to hear you say that.
I have lived a life that has multiple bizarre twists and turns. But at the same time, I also have done comedy, which has warped my own sensibility of what's funny and what's acceptable. And I think when we first met, you are hilariously funny. You have a great sense of humor. But I could push a boundary or two that you would be like, whoa. And that was very early on. And I noticed that about myself, that there are certain things that what I take for normal, what I take as, oh, everyone is on this same page, isn't always the case. And that I think it's changed as I've gotten older. But definitely, you live in a certain thing, you build these certain these kind of neural pathways that you go like, oh yeah, this is behavior that is acceptable. Jokes that you should tell in mixed company, that people don't understand. Like, I joke around about this a lot, that when I first started doing UCB, a lot of, and I'm sure you and Jess talk about this, like a lot of my interactions with friends were bits. Can you tell everybody the face that you're making right now?
It was scary, actually. Talk about a spook and a scare. It was like, I couldn't believe how it was difficult to have conversations with people. And I thought, I wonder if I'm ever going to be comfortable in his friend group, because there were just so many bits.
There
were only bits.
Right. You're coming to spend a week at a house in Ojai that we rented, and people are trying to sell you above ground pools, or, talk to you about.
Someone's the pool cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're forced to perform. So yeah, anyway.
Well, that's the best part of it, right? That's the highest level. But I think what you're describing is, early on in our relationship, there were times where I would feel like there were jokes that did offend me, and that I found just, off. But I also think, as a woman doing comedy, I'm really proud of myself for being honest about that. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that, because there were so few women at UCB or wherever, the vibe was like, if you don't think this is funny, if you're not willing to be like edgy like this, then you're not really funny.
Well,
that I really hated, and I still don't like, but I find I less so have a problem with it now, and the culture's changed, so that's not really the case anymore. But at that time, it took a lot for me to say, hey, even to you when we were dating, because I did respect you as a comedian. And I had people at the theater I knew were talking about how I was, basically too serious.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know that whole story, babe, of when I made a comment about like women and
oh yeah.
Don't forget about that.
The thing
but knowing that men thought I couldn't hang or was very hard.
Well, let me just say,
I tried to be as authentic to myself as I could be.
I want to say two things, and one, I want to circle back to our relationship, but I want to just highlight one thing that you're not saying, which is what I don't believe. It wasn't like, you're not edgy enough, you can't hang. You're edgy, you're smart, you push. It was the dumber stuff that you were like, oh, I'm on stage, and if I don't know this Star Wars reference.
Oh, well, that's true. But that's a different thing.
It's a different thing.
That's totally different.
See, I thought that there was,
I don't want to out people right now, but you and I both know that we're the one joke that you almost decided not to date me because I didn't think it was funny. And I don't want to get into it.
I understand.
Now,
I understand. I'm respecting
what that is.
Yes.
But the fact that it was male dominated and that the actual improv was hyper masculine.
Well, and I think it was.
That was hard for me too. But
well,
that
I also
was a
think
issue.
I think it also aired on the side of being incredibly nerdy, and like knowing a reference to a sci-fi thing or something like that is also different than, like, that doesn't mean funny or not, but I think that a lot of women were put in this position to.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say, and why I think our relationship was so special and what was so interesting about it was when you did call me out on that joke.
The joke that shall not be named.
The joke that shall not be named.
I want to sit here and say, don't worry, listeners, it's not that bad. But I'm actually like, no.
Here's the thing that you should know. It was a joke that was publicly said in a very large forum that was repeated. So it's not like whatever. But again,
it wasn't a joke that you made. But
right.
It was a joke that you thought was funny.
I thought it was very funny. Yes. Now, and this is an interesting thing, like, I think it was us feeling each other out. And it's one of the things in the book I talk about our relationship a lot. And I appreciate you allowing me to do that. I showed you the book very much towards the end, and I don't know if you knew what was in there. And this joke is not in there, but I do think that part of what was so special was that you felt comfortable enough with me to talk to me. And I felt beyond anything that was going on in our romantic life, beyond anything that was going on as performers, I respected your opinion to hear that and sit with it. And I think that I always think back to that argument because it wasn't like, well, if you don't think it's funny, you're wrong. I think one of the things that I came to in that was, I respect your opinion and I understand that, and I'm going to be aware of that. And I think that that was something that was really different than anything that I'd ever done. I wasn't fuck this person, she didn't get what's funny. It's like I really respected the way that you came to me. And I think it started actually this thread in our relationship where whatever is at top of mind does come out, for better or for worse, in a really lovely way. We can speak to it and engage with it. And I think that we don't really carry a lot of baggage in that way. And it may not be always the best conversation, but I think it was the signal to me that this relationship was something special and something different, that you could do that. And that's something that I think, as I listen to you, as I watch you, as a mom, as a performer, as a human being, I'm always amazed at that you can go there. I think that the part of this podcast is not being fearful of saying what you mean and saying what you think and letting it be out there. Like that idea, let us live. I mean, it's like this, we're sharing these things that, I don't know. I think it's a very powerful thing that not many people do. I think so many people sit on things. It becomes poisonous. It can become like an attic full of junk. And, it's sort of the difference of, do you treat a cut right away or do you just ignore it for a while, and I think that's, yeah. And I think that you've really changed the entire way that I communicate in relationships. I mean, that truly is, and we talk about this in a way in the book, something that was so amazing to me. And I'm always looking to that. I'm always looking to that. And I think that's one of the things, even though I'm not allowed to listen to the show, what I really appreciate. And when people talk to me about this show, they're like over the moon about it, because I think that you're sharing a vulnerability that is also incredibly strong, and you're not afraid to be who you are. And that's something that I think is, in this world and this time, it's sometimes a tricky line to walk, because what you said was, about being in the UCB and you feeling like, you said this thing about you're too serious, but that's who you aren't too serious. But what you said was what you felt.
Mm-hmm.
And that, look at where you are, look at what you've done, look at where what you do. And I think that that's a really strong thing that I think is hard for people. I think when we go back to talking about bits, I think that's partly people afraid to have a deeper conversation. Anyway.
And I should say that, although I was stunned by all the bits, I deeply love all of those people I'm referring to. And my memoir is called Beyond the Bit.
But by the way, and I just want you to know too, it's not as if you don't do bits,
all the time.
and are funny in responding to bits, but I could also understand the only way of communicating for a long time or around a large, it was just through bits. It's well, do I know these people, or is this person a above the ground pool salesman? I don't know,
Right. And everybody evolves and everybody changes too. But you're talking about my willingness to be vulnerable or be who I am, but that's exactly what you've done with your book, is really bare parts of yourself and share such deep, such deep and personal stories about yourself. And I'm really, really proud of you. And it's funny, I've never in my life had this experience, and you've heard me do it, where when someone tells you, just happened yesterday, a woman we were talking to, I had met before, but we spent some time with her here on vacation, had shared the most beautiful reading of your book, which was about how she's a counselor for kids, and she was saying that a lot of people who have gone through trauma are given books on how to deal with it and how to move on and how to become resilient and move past it. And it's very clinical and they're very, prescriptive, and how your book tells that story, but it is so in such a different way and with this narrative and the tools that you found as a child and as an adult, are so helpful. But I have never felt so comfortable receiving praise for someone else. And when she said it, I said immediately, thank you. I've never felt so, I've never taken so much pride in anything I've done, to be honest. And as the amount of pride I am taking in your book.
All right, did you enjoy that deep dive sneak peek? If you want to hear the rest of that episode, download it on the Deep Dive podcast feed and make sure you subscribe to their show to hear more of June and more of How Did This Get Made all-star Jessica St. Clair. All right, people, it is time to announce our next movie, and next week we'll be going from Marky Mark to Sharky Shark. That's right, next episode we are kicking off How Did This Get Made's Hot Shark Summer with 2002's Shark Attack 3 Megalodon. Now, Rotten Tomatoes gives this film a 43% score on the tomato meter, and Andrew Todd from Birth Movies Death wrote, Shark Attack 3 ain't a great film or even necessarily a good film, but it's most definitely a fun film. Sip it up as an appetizer for the Meg or as a post-Meg digestif. I love that, and let me tell you, people, I love this movie, all right? This is worth watching. Shark Attack 3, Megalodon. You're going to recognize a lot of stuff, especially if you're a fan of The Daily Show. I'm not even going to break down the plot for you because all you really need to know is there's a giant shark trying to kill people. So now, listen to the trailer with that in mind.
People pay a lot of money to come down here. They expect to use everything, including the beaches.
You cannot let people swim in the water when there's a shark out there! We've got 60-foot shark swimming off our coast. It's not gonna go away!
Megalodon, ancestor of the great white shark. It's supposed to be extinct.
You lied to me?
7 men dead. You knew something was dangerous down there. You let them dive anyway.
They knew it was risky.
Bull fucking shit!
Shark Attack 3 Megalodon is available to stream for free on Amazon Prime. Tubi, Freevee, and the Roku channel. If you don't have any of those streaming services, you can also rent it at all the usual places separately. I also encourage you to check out Hoopla and Canopy, as well as Libby, which are digital media services offered by your local public library that allow you to consume movies, TV, music, audiobooks, ebooks, comics for free. I just was at the library conference and I met so many great people, and I just wanted to make sure that you are using this amazing resource. They are unbelievable at carrying the worst movies ever, and also the best books and ebooks and all that other good stuff. But I just want to tell you, Libby, thumbs up. Anyway, that is it for the show. Please rate and review us. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you are following us and you have automatic downloads turned on. It helps and we appreciate it. Visit us on social media at HDTGM. And a big thank you to our producer, Scott Sani and Molly Reynolds, our movie picking producer, April Halley, and our associate producer, Jess Cisneros, and our engineer, Casey Holford. We'll see you next week for Shark Attack 3 Megalodon.